Security. For 9 decades, Social Security has been the cornerstone of retirement and security for generations of Americans. Now, as we recognize this anniversary, it's time to talk about how we protect and strengthen Social Security for the next generation and beyond. But let's be real. Times are changing, we're living longer, traditional pensions are disappearing, and everyday costs from healthcare to groceries just keep climbing. And that's why Social Security is more important than ever. Joining us today are two national leaders who know the issue inside and out, Congressman Mike Carey of Ohio and Vice Chair of the U.S. House Ways and Means Subcommittee on Social Security, and John Hishta, Senior Vice President at AARP. Together, they'll lead a timely and candid conversation about the state of Social Security and what's working, what's not, what's next. Whether you're currently receiving benefits or planning for retirement, this is your opportunity to hear directly from national leaders and share your voice of one of the most important issues facing Americans today. If you're just joining, I'm Jenny Carlson with AARP Ohio, and I want to welcome you to this important discussion. Social Security celebrates 90 years. What's next? The live event is hosted by AARP Ohio, and we're glad you're here. So let's get started. First, let me welcome U.S. Representative Mike Carey, who represents Ohio's 15th District and serves as Vice Chair of the U.S. House Ways and Means Subcommittee on Social Security. Since entering Congress in 2021, he's been a strong advocate for older Americans. He's the sponsor of the bipartisan 2025 Credit for Caring Act, which would provide considerable tax credits for family caregivers and expenses like home modifications, respite care, and assistive technologies. A veteran, a father, a grandfather, he is also helping lead a fight in Congress on issues like Social Security and caregiving, which impact older Americans and their families and future generations. Thank you, Congressman, for being here today. And also joining us is John Hishta, Senior Vice President at AARP. John leads national campaigns that ensure that your voices are heard on important issues like Social Security and Medicare. Under his leadership, AARP has mobilized millions of members to take action, whether through grassroots organizing, public education, or direct engagement with policymakers. His work reflects a steadfast dedication of empowering individuals of every generation to live with dignity, independence, and choice. Thank you both for being here today. As a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, AARP has worked with every American and every Congress to advance the well-being of older Americans. AARP is your cornerstone, fighting for issues that matter most to you, including protecting your hard-earned Social Security, achieving common sense solutions that will help Ohioans' unpaid family caregivers save time and money. This is an interactive event. That means after some brief remarks from our guests, you'll be able to start asking your questions by pressing *3 on your keypad at any point during this call. If you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube, you can post your questions in the comments. So let's dive in first. Let's first turn to Congressman Mike Carey.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for having me here today. It's wonderful to celebrate 90 years of Social Security and all that it's done to provide for our seniors and give them the certainty they need, that safety net in retirement. You know, these are benefits that seniors have earned, they've paid into, and it's a promise that they will receive their benefits on time and in full. Listen, I'm a proud supporter of Social Security, and I continue to deliver on that promise every day. In Congress, I know how important it is to ensure that seniors get what they earn. I come from a family where my grandparents, that was the only form of income that they had. So I know firsthand how many of you feel about Social Security. Recently, we've been working hard to deliver tax relief to Americans that will help working families and seniors across the country. And our reconciliation law that was just signed by the president on July 4th, we created and expanded over $6,000 tax credit for low and middle income seniors. And for seniors receiving Social Security, this will lower their tax burden and help them keep more of the money they earned throughout their careers. And it will help their Social Security benefits even go further. This is a priority of many of us and something that I was proud to support through my role on the Ways and Means Committee. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Ways and Means Committee does, this is the committee that is in charge of taxes and Social Security policy in Congress. Recently, I also helped pass the Social Security Fairness Act. Now, this is something that we had been working on for over 40 years. And in a bipartisan way, we were able to get that done. And what it does is it closes a loophole that prevented our public servants like teachers, our EMS providers, our police officers, our firefighters from accessing all the benefits that they had accrued over the years. So this is something that was done in a bipartisan way. It was signed by President Biden, and I was proud to be leading the discharge to get that onto the floor. Now, listen, before we go to questions, I just want everyone online to know that if you are having any issues with Social Security or veterans benefits, whatever it may be, delays in accessing your benefits or slow responses, or you have questions about the agency, I have an amazing team of caseworkers in my office. And we work to make sure that those issues can be resolved for our constituents, not only just here in Central Ohio, but in the Miami Valley. So if you're experiencing any of those issues with any agency, please call us. And I actually wrote the number down just to make sure I didn't mess this up. But our phone number is 614-927-6902. And of course, you can always go on to our website, which is carey.house.gov.
Thank you, Congressman Carey. Now let's hear from our thoughts from Vice President John Hishta.
Vice President.
There you
go. Pretty wild. I too am excited to be here. And first of all, I want to thank Congressman Carey for being part of this event and for championing Social Security, and most importantly, also championing caregiving. It's an issue that is near and dear to a lot of our hearts. As I like to say, even though we're here talking about Social Security today, everybody either was a caregiver, is a caregiver, or will be a caregiver at some point in their lives. And so we can't thank you enough, Congressman, for your help on that issue. And as we celebrate the 90th anniversary of Social Security, it's important that we figure out a way as we move forward to make sure that it remains solvent, not just for this generation, but for future generations as well. Fully 69 million Americans collect Social Security checks as we speak. It will go up to about 82 million within 10 years. And we're going to face a solvency gap by the year 2034 that we're going to have to deal with one way or another. And we're hopeful that with leaders like Congressman Carey in the Congress and leaders in the Senate and with the president championing the issue, that we'll get there, and we'll make sure that future generations receive the same kind of benefits as this current generation receives. Because as the congressman said, everybody has earned their Social Security benefits because they have paid into it with every paycheck, going back to when they started work. In my case, it was when I was 16 years old working at a country club cleaning golf clubs, and I started putting money into Social Security. So I'm looking forward to the conversation and the questions. And again, Congressman, we're happy to have you here with us today.
Well, thank you, John. And so today we're celebrating a major milestone, the anniversary of Social Security. So let's wind the clock back. And 90 years ago, 17-cent payment sent to an Ohioan marked the beginning of one of America's most powerful promises, Social Security. Since that historic moment in Cleveland, the program has never missed that payment and has helped generations of Americans retire with security and peace of mind. It's kept that promise, helping people retire with dignity after a lifetime of hard work. I mean, it's such a great point. First check issued in the state of Ohio, and we're super proud about that. So, John, can you give us a quick reminder about the role of Social Security, how it plays in most of Americans' retirement plans?
Sure. As I said yesterday to some folks, it really is an American institution. It's one of the most successful programs that's ever been created in modern American history. And as I said, 70 million Americans actually receive Social Security payments every month, and a full 40% of them rely on it for the majority of their income. And so without it, it would cause serious economic hardship. 15% of people on Social Security rely on it solely for their income. And so it lifts a lot of seniors out of poverty as well, and it helps them not only with their groceries and with their everyday expenses, but for a lot of seniors, it allows them to live at home, which most people want to do as they age with dignity over the course of their lives. And so 138 or 183 million Americans pay into it currently. That's about 2.5 to 1 workers for every person on Social Security benefits. And as we move forward, that number will continue to grow as well.
Yeah, and John, that's such a great point. Even here in the great state of Ohio, individuals receiving Social Security are paying in about $50 million a year annually, and that helps with the economy. And so we're very proud about that factor as well. So, thank you again for today talking about what we're doing, how we're protecting, strengthening Social Security, and to hear directly from those working on your behalf. Just a reminder, this is an interactive event, so if you'd like to ask a question about Social Security to our guests, just press *3 on your telephone keypad to be connected to AARP's staff member. If you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube, you can post your questions in the comments. We have staff on hand monitoring them. And now I'll turn it over to John Hishta to share any additional thoughts about protecting Social Security and ensuring customer service. John?
So first of all, if you are interested in getting involved in helping us protect and preserve Social Security for the long run, I would encourage you to go to aarp.org/weearnedit. Again, that's aarp.org/weearnedit. And as the congressman said, if anybody has any issues with respect to payments or trying to get through to the Social Security Administration, I would just echo his comments and suggest that you call his office, because I know that his staff will make sure that they help you and take care of you. We all know that at the end of the day, we don't want any waste, fraud, or abuse in the program as it moves forward. But we want to make sure when the Social Security Administration modernizes the program, that they take into consideration that customer service is important and that phone calls can be answered on time. And if they have to go to a field office, that you're able to do that during regular hours and that you have the ability to do that. So that's something that we're going to continue to push for. And like I said, if you go to the website, aarp.org/weearnedit, you can learn how you can get involved in helping us over the long run, because we're going to make sure that we activate as many Americans as we can across the country to encourage not just Congressman Carey, but all of his colleagues on both sides of the aisle to make sure we come up with a plan to ensure its solvency for the long run.
Thank you for that valuable perspective, John. My next question is for you, Congressman Carey. It's clear the critical role of Social Security plays in the financial security of older adults is recognized by Americans of all ages, and the trust fund from which Social Security payments are made are now projected to run short of money by 2034, 1 year earlier than anticipated in last year's trustees report. Without congressional action, beneficiaries could face automatic reductions in their earned benefits. What is Congress doing to examine the financial health of the system, and what steps can Congress take to ensure the health of Social Security payments moving forward?
Listen, that is a very important question. It's something that my colleagues and I on both sides of the aisle, I mean, we recognize the needs that have to be addressed. And it's something that we're going to need to tackle, not in a partisan way. It has to be a bipartisan plan. And I've been proud to work with the Republicans and the Democrats just on that issue. Obviously, we need to see more economic growth. I mean, more economic growth translates into more money coming into the trust fund. I think if you look at our reconciliation bill, you see a lot of the pieces and parts. The law will create more jobs, will boost wages and earnings, and will in turn actually create more money going into the trust fund. So I think that was a very good first step. Listen, I don't think there's a lack of urgency. I think the process requires a lot of work and a lot of negotiations. For me, bipartisan legislation often takes longer to craft because we want to make sure that we bring all sides together to make a deal. But we also have to recognize that there's results in the law that actually stand the test of time. And I think what I always try to tell people, there is no monopoly on a good idea. And so that's why I think Democrats and Republicans can work together and we can resolve this. So this is the process, and we know it's important. but there's a lot that we want to accomplish, and it'll take some time. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So we're going to go through this thoughtfully and in a bipartisan way to ensure that we have a really pretty substantial long-term fix. And again, I think you're going to see both sides of the aisle working to get this done.
Well, thank you for your leadership in this. And so, John, can you give us your perspective on this topic?
So I agree with what the congressman said. I think that in order for the American people to have confidence that the Social Security program is going to be around for the long run, it has to be a bipartisan solution, and it has to have a seal of approval from the president and, frankly, the American people across the board. And so we hope to play a role in making sure that we bring the voices of not just AARP members, but all Americans across the country into the debate as these guys move forward and have this conversation. And I would just encourage the Congress to get creative. Obviously, we're in a much different place in our country than we were 90 years ago when the Social Security Act was signed, and even different place than we were in 1983 when President Reagan and then Speaker O'Neill came together and solved it for future generations. And so we look forward to working with the congressman and his colleagues and getting this done so that by 2034, people can rest easy.
That's right.
Yeah, well, thank you both. And now let's turn to the phones and take some questions from our audience. If you have just joined our call, I'm Jenny Carlson, State Director for AARP Ohio, and today's topic is protecting and strengthening Social Security. Congressman Mike Carey from Ohio is joining us to talk about these issues. We also have Senior Vice President John Hishta, an expert from the AARP National Office with us. Remember, this is an interactive call, so if you'd like to ask a question of any of our guests at any time during our call, just press *3 on your telephone keypad, and you'll be connected with an AARP volunteer who will note your name and get you in the queue to ask your question. We want to hear from you, so type your questions into the comments. So we're going to go to our first caller. Our first caller is Ryan from Hilliard, Ohio. Go ahead, Ryan. You're live.
Hi, thank you. This is Ryan from Hilliard, Ohio. I've had to help my parents navigate the Social Security system recently.
But I can read the question. I see it in the queue. And Ryan from Hilliard, his question is, Congressman, what steps in Social Security are you taking to modernize the system and make services more user-friendly for people like my parents, and really for all of us who rely on these benefits?
Well, listen, earlier this spring, we got a new Social Security administrator, and we talked about this exact issue before the Ways and Means Committee. And he told us some horror stories about hours-long downtimes on Social Security websites that were preventing people from accessing all the information about their benefits. Now, luckily, he told me about a plan to modernize their system with new equipment and the systems that will result probably in a lot of the meaningful improvements for the users to access information and get the help. And let me just tell you again, and if you're having issues, please make sure you reach out and touch our office and reach out to us, because I'm going to give this website again. It's carey.house.gov. Phone number is 614-927-6902. And the reason I say this is people that have been working within the Social Security benefit system, with the lag time that they've had with the problems with the website. Now, I do believe the administrator, to his word, that he is going to get that rectified. But again, if you're still having issues, please contact our office. And for those of you that are listening, our district grows from Shelby, Miami, Clark, Madison, Fayette, and Franklin County. Many of these counties we split with other members of Congress. If you don't happen to be living in our district, we have a very good working relationship with those members of Congress, and we can work with them to help facilitate any answers you need. So I appreciate the question. Thank you, Jenny.
Sure, and thank you, Ryan. And so we're going to go on to our next question, and our next question is from Deborah in Athens. Go ahead, Deborah.
difficult decision to leave my career early to care for my husband. Then I lost half of my 401k, which was part of my retirement savings during the financial downturn in 2008. I must live entirely on my Social Security now. I'm concerned about how Social Security supports caregivers and others who faced unexpected financial hardship. What kinds of changes or improvements are being considered to make the system more fair and responsive to these situations?
I could tell you. Listen, Deborah, I want you to know that you're not alone with the concerns about supporting loved ones and being a potential caregiver. I know John mentioned what Rosalind Carter used to always say, and in fact, I'm leading right now a tax credit bill to support family caregivers called the Credit for Caring Act. We hear from so many Ohioans from all over the state concerned about the potential of financial hardships. And rest assured that Congress is working in a bipartisan way to address this. Like I mentioned previously, when I spoke to the Social Security Administrator about the issues that they are having and focused in the Ways and Means Committee hearing, he told me about his plan to modernize the system with new equipment and new systems that will result in, I think, very meaningful improvements for users to help access the information they need. But again, I think if you look at our Credit for Caring bill, this is a bipartisan piece of legislation. It's something that, has the support, I believe, of the president, because I think the president he talked about it on the campaign.
And the vice president.
And the vice president. So I think this is something that as long as we can get something done, I know we had the first reconciliation package. There's talk about a second reconciliation package. As long as it meets the Byrd rule in the Senate, I would love to see this as part of any other package that's coming through. And we'll talk a little bit about that probably later. But the other thing, again, if you do have any issues with anything, please reach out to our office, and we'd be happy to help facilitate any answers for the issues you may have.
Yeah, and so Congressman Carey, I did want to spend a little bit of time of talking about your bipartisan 2025 Credit for Caring Act. How could the Credit for Caring Act help caregivers in the workforce, ensuring that they continue to contribute to Social Security, but also, for AARP, this is a top legislative priority, and we can't thank you enough for sponsoring and in your leadership in driving the bill forward. What could listeners do too to help support the legislation?
Jenny, that's great. The Credit for Caring Act, if you have not heard of this before, and it's a bipartisan bill. I'm doing it with my colleague, Glenda Sanchez, who's actually from California. It's a bipartisan bicameral bill. So we actually have a Senate version, which is being led by Shelley Moore Capito out of West Virginia and Michael Bennett, who actually spent some time here in Ohio back in many years ago. But listen, I think it's a great bill because it offers a balance for workers who are taking care of sick or aging loved one. Without this bill, workers either have to take time off, which we know, to help take care of the person they're taking care of, or taken the cost of paying for someone to care for their loved one. And this is, we derived a number. I think the bill specifically offers $5,000 tax credit for those that are caring for their loved one. This means that they have the more time to work and more financial freedom to really get the best care they need for their loved one. And I think it's a great bill. I'd love to see it again if we do another package because of the bipartisan, bicameral, and the support of the White House. I would love to see it on any other must-piece legislation by the end of the year. I think it's a great program, and I think it'd go a long way, especially for Deborah, who called in just a little bit ago.
Well, we have 1.5 million caregivers just in the state of Ohio alone, and I know that there's strong support for the legislation, so we look forward to continuing to advocate with you and your team on this bill. So here's the next question from the audience, and this is Pat from South Charleston. Pat, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, hi, Congressman. This is Patty. Recently retired. Social Security is a huge part of my retirement plan. I worked with a financial planner and thought carefully about when to claim my benefits, but now I'm hearing that the trust fund could run out within the next decade. If automatic cuts happen, that would be really detrimental for me, and I'd have to make some serious choices. I'm just wondering, what might be coming down the road from Congress to resolve this? I know these things are complicated, but if there are automatic cuts, it will really, really affect many people, including myself.
Well, and I don't know if you were on earlier, and I mentioned how my grandparents, one set of my grandparents, they only lived on their Social Security. And so I know how important it is. And I think any automatic deduction, and we worked even last year with the Social Security reach back provisions where people had to pay more money because they were overpaid and in no fault of their own. And so I think we've kind of rectified that system. And if you do have issues with that, please reach out to our office. But I think to jump right into it, I think the reconciliation bill that we just passed did play a major role here and will play a major role. After Congress passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017, we cut taxes and unleashed the economy with pro-growth policies. We know that. But even though we brought the tax rates down, the economic boon for the country experience actually raised tax revenue because so many new jobs were created and creating more net growth in tax revenue. So after passing this reconciliation law earlier this summer, we preserved so many of the 2017 tax cuts and expanded the tax cuts into other places. We talked about the $6,000 additional for folks on Social Security. So we're hoping that this new economic boom created by the money going back into the Americans' wallets will result in a net increase in revenue. So if that happens, obviously we know that this money will also help the Social Security Trust Fund. Higher wages, lower taxes, more economic opportunity are setting the stage, I think, to make America stronger. So hopefully that means that the next 90 years of Social Security will be stronger than the last. But again, I think that this is such a bipartisan issue. I don't care whether you're a Democrat or Republican, independent. We all understand the importance of Social Security and what it means to our seniors, our families, our loved ones. And so I think what we have to do is work together in a bipartisan way, and I think you're going to see that. I think you will see it here in the next year.
Yeah, great points. John, I wanted to give you a few moments to respond to that as well.
Yeah, and I think it's comforting to know that President Trump is also a champion of Social Security and wants to make sure that it continues for the long run as well. And so, again, I would just reiterate what the congressman said. It's going to be crucial that whatever solution ultimately gets put on the table, that, excuse me, it is bipartisan and it has the overwhelming support of Congress and the Senate so that the American people are confident that the program will continue. And at the end of the day, we know that they have to act by 2034, and that our job at AARP is going to continue to be to encourage them to work on this process sooner rather than later so that by 2034, we have a solution in place and that future generations are confident that the benefits that they've paid into will be there for them as well.
So thank you very much, Congressman Carey and John, for answering some great questions from our audience. And if we have time, we'll go to one more question later in the program. And so, John, even though in 90 years it's never missed a payment, Social Security is not without its challenges. Tell us a little bit more about that and how folks can make a difference.
So again, as we've been having this conversation, we've talked at length about the trust fund and the need to make sure that it is there for future generations. And that will probably dominate the conversation around Social Security for the next several years. And as part of that, we here at AARP have set up a website, aarp.org/weearnedit, where folks can go and sign up and take a pledge to help us interact with their members of Congress, whether it be Congressman Carey or his colleagues around the state of Ohio and the two senators who represent you. So that is going to be important for us to continue to recruit activists at aarp.org/weearnedit.
So thank you, John, and great information for our listeners who want to stay engaged and informed on this vital topic. We've been talking with our special guest, Congressman Mike Carey from Ohio. Congressman Carey, as we near the end of our program, would you like to follow up on any of the questions or share some closing comments?
Well, listen, first, I want to thank Jenny. I want to thank you and AARP for hosting this event in celebration of the 90 years of Social Security and all that it's done to provide for our seniors and certainly the safety net for their retirement. I also want to thank you, John, for being here. These are benefits that seniors have earned, they've paid into, and it's a promise that they will receive those benefits on time and in full. And the one thing I do want to point out, because I do think the Social Security fairness, so any of you that are teachers, firefighters, postal workers, EMS workers, many of you will be receiving checks from Social Security. If you have, because this was the Social Security fairness thing that we passed, if you're having issues with that, please make sure you reach out to our congressional office, and I'll give that number again, or I think I can give it again. Oh, did I drop? Oh, there it is. Okay. Our number is 614-927-6902 or carey.house.gov. And again, because of the size of our congressional districts, and we have 15 congressional districts in the state of Ohio, and we work with all 15 members or 14 other members. And really, all of them are very, very well versed in what's going on with Social Security and also the Credit for Caring Act. And I think most of our colleagues have signed on. But at any rate, in closing, I just want to once again thank you for the opportunity to share with everybody. And again, if you're having those issues, please reach out to our offices. We look forward to working with you guys. Thank you.
Great, great. So we've been talking with Senior Vice President John Hishta from our AARP National Office too. Is there anything else, John, you'd like to remark on?
I appreciate this opportunity to spend some time chatting with everyone, and hopefully that conversation has proved fruitful for the folks who are either on Facebook, YouTube, or have been listening online. I want to applaud Congressman Carey for his championing the caregiving work that he does, and we look forward to continuing to work with you and your team as we get to a point where we can make sure that Social Security is solvent for future generations. And so again, thank you, Congressman, for all of your work, and we appreciate your partnership.
Yes, and I'd like to also thank you, Congressman Carey. As a caregiver myself, the Credit for Caring Act is near and dear to my heart. And we look forward to working with you in the up and coming months. And so I'd also like to thank everyone for taking part in today's town hall discussion of AARP's priority to protect and strengthen Social Security. Congressman Carey and John, thank you again for sharing such great information and answering questions from all of our listeners. We hope you learned something new today. We apologize if we weren't able to get to your questions and answers, but you stay on the line. You will be able to leave us your voicemail with your questions or comments. We'll work with Congressman Carey. We'll work with John to get direct answers to you. You can also obtain valuable information through AARP publications on our website at aarp.org or by calling 1-888-687-2277. I'm Jenny Carlson, AARP Ohio State Director. Thank you and have a great day.